Oi! So I watched a couple of movies last night. The first one, I got given this. Uh, Otherwise, I've never really heard of it before, but someone bought it for $5 for me and thought I might like it. So I checked it out last night. Beneath the Darkness. It's got Dennis Quaid in it. Um, it's pretty average. Pretty average. This is not a film anyone particularly needs to have in their collection. If someone gives it to you, that's cool. That's really awesome. But yeah, look, unless you're a Dennis Quaid fan and you collect all his films, I don't really think there's much point in owning this movie. Um, Hire it by all means. It's kind of a cool little horror thriller. I mean, there's absolutely nothing in this you won't get from any other horror thriller. It's basically your typical bunch of teenagers talking to each other about the creepy old guy that lives in the neighbourhood, and basically reckon they've seen a ghost at his house. So late one night they go to check out this supposed ghost, and they find more than they bargained for. And it's basically kids versus this guy. Kids go to the cops don't believe them, and it's a typical thriller sort of story. And then so the kids have got to sort this out themselves, and there's like a back mystery to it all. I found all the kids talking and their banter together, especially at the start, was all pretty stiff. They weren't terrible actors by any means, but it was a little bit forced at times. Dennis Quaid is a pretty wacky sort of creepy guy. He does a good job. It can be a little bit cheesy and over the top at times, but it kind of made it more of an amusing film that way. So Dennis Quaid, I appreciated his little part in it. But yeah, other than that, man, it's nothing you're not going to get from any other horror thriller where a bunch of kids are trying to, weasel out what the story is behind the weirdo next door. So that's that little one. And the other one I watched was The Ghoul, an old 1930s Boris Karloff film, The Ghoul. And it's basically about this guy who's into all the sort of Egypt pharaohs and all the history of the Egyptians and their gods and that sort of thing. And he's on his deathbed and he's procured this old Egyptian gem, and basically he wants to be buried with it. And if he gets buried with it, he can live forever in some sort of afterlife, I believe, or something like that. And basically, if the jewel ever gets taken from his tomb, he will rise from the dead and wreak vengeance and that sort of thing. And that's what happens. Someone takes the gem from the tomb and he goes around on a vengeance spree. Look, I've been on a Boris Karloff kick and watching the old Dark House, and I love Frankenstein and anything James Whale that Karloff's been in I love, but this one I just found mediocre. It's a nice watch, it's a nice transfer, but it's nothing more than mediocre. It has elements, because of the Egyptian theme, it kind of reminded me of The Mummy, the Universal movie The Mummy. But of all the Universal monsters, The Mummy was my least favourite anyway, so it's not a sort of a theme that I'm particularly into anyway, so maybe that didn't help with The Ghoul. It's got that whole Egyptian stuff going on. But I think if you enjoyed The Mummy, I think you'd probably get a bit of a kick out of The Ghoul. But yeah, it just wasn't my thing. I just found it kind of average. I enjoyed it for what it was, but it didn't give me a massive kick. So, but yeah, anyway, a couple of pretty damn average horror movies last night. It was a little bit disappointing. I mean, it was enjoyable. I watched them, but I didn't get a whole lot out of these films. I wouldn't be recommending anyone to particularly go out and buy any of these films, but if you find them for cheap, yeah, why not? If someone gives them to you, that's awesome. But yeah, Beneath the Darkness and The Ghoul. Thanks for watching, guys, and see ya.